Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at decoders. Let the wild ride begin! As you can probably guess, a decoder decodes or converts binary information. So, a decoder decodes stuff. Stuff like data packets, for example. A decoder often works alongside an encoder, which converts data into binary code. So, it does exactly the opposite. But we'll have a closer look at encoders in the next video. Back to the decoder. So, a decoder is able to decode certain things like data packets. And you already know about one type of decoder, the instruction decoder. This little guy helps the processor convert instructions into a language it can understand. So, what's a good way to think of this? Ultimately, a decoder is one more of the little modules that make up a computer. A computer deals primarily with binary signals, which are just a sequence of ones and zeros. The decoder receives the input signals, that is, the combination of ones and zeros, and assigns true or false, 1 or 0, to one of its outputs. One thing that's important to remember here is that a decoder can have any number of inputs. We could say n inputs. The number of outputs generated is then 2 to the power of the number of inputs. That is, the number of outputs is 2 to the nth power. So, for example, if we have 2 inputs, the number of outputs generated by the decoder is 2 squared, or 4. A decoder with 3 inputs would have 2 cubed, or 8 outputs. So what's going on with these inputs and outputs? I thought you'd never ask. Say we've got a decoder with 2 inputs. That means it has 4 outputs. The inputs are usually labeled in plus a number, and the outputs are labeled out and are also numbered. And by the way, we start numbering at 0. So now the 2 inputs can give us the following combinations: 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. For each combination of inputs, there's always one output that's true. All the other outputs are false, which means they always get a value of 0. We got the first combination, so 0, 0. If the first output, labeled output 0, is true, then out 0 gets a value of 1, and the other 3 get 0. And so for each possible combination of inputs, one input is selected as true. Now if we have a decoder with 3 inputs, we're naturally going to have a lot more combinations. But even then, we have exactly one specific output for each possible combination of inputs. The rest are given a value of 0. If you want, you can define the whole thing using functions. Inputs are indicated with a capital I. So now the output, out 0, looks something like this. Out 0 is equal to not I0, not I1, not I2. Out 1 would then be I0, not I1, not I2. And it's really easy to get the rest of them by looking at the truth table. So what you might want to remember is, when you have a decoder, for each combination of inputs, there is exactly one output that's true. All other outputs are false. You can also set all this up in a circuit. And what are circuits made up of again? That's right, gates. Okay, let's put some of them together to make a decoder. Let's go ahead and use our 2 to 4 decoder again. That gives us 2 inputs and 4 outputs. The first output is what we get when both inputs have a value of 0. Not I0 and not I1 are represented by the triangle with the little bubble on the tip. Then we use the AND gate, the logical conjunction, and we get out 0. For the second output, we have the inputs not I0 and I1. So we take not I0 and I0 and put them both through the AND. For the rest, we just take the strings that we need and put them through the AND gate. You might want to go ahead and press pause to make sure you understand everything that's going on in the diagram. And that's how the magic of binary conversion works. But here are a few more facts about decoders. First off, decoders can be implemented using hardware or software. Second, decoders can process signals in both analog and digital form. Analog decoders are used in old analog color TVs, for instance. Digital decoders can be used in serial data transmission. And the million-dollar question is, who remembers what serial data transmission was? So what can you say when someone asks you about decoders? A decoder is a little logic module in a computer that is able to decode things like data packets. All it does is receive binary signals, converts them, and sends them along. It does so using n inputs and corresponding outputs of 2 to the power of n. The decoder receives certain input combination of ones and zeros. Each combination gets one specific output with a value of 1. This means that for each combination of inputs, one output is true and the rest are false, meaning they have a value of 0. Decoders can be found in both digital and analog form and can be implemented using either hardware or software. The counterpart of a decoder is an encoder. If you want to know what they can do, check out our next video. Otherwise, you can get one of our crib sheets on computer science topics like Java, for instance. Alright, party people, see you soon!